That's what.
Acrocanthosaurus.
Acrocanthosaurus. Acrocanthosaurus. I don't remember what cancer means. Acrocanthosaurus.
See, it's like
I don't know. It's something to do with fish, right?
Acrocanthosaurus.
Is it a sea one? Is it a sea dinosaur?
No, it's theropod.
I need to look up what canth means. Okay. Yep, I'm fine. I'm amused at the meal that I'm having. Yep, it's gourmet stuff. I'm watching it just slide down.
Yeah, so its name means high spine lizard. It's named for the neural spine of the plant. That's one sort of a snail. Not quite, it's more arranged.
Is that what canth means?
I suppose. Acrocanthosaurus. High spine. Acro being.
Coelacanth means like shield
Acro, I guess.
back, right? I think coelacanth means shield back, I thought it meant. So high back, high spine. Is it very long?
Yeah, it was a pretty big theropod. Not like Tyrannosaurus, but almost there. Larger than Allosaurus. I feel really bad. I'm not sure if it's the cookie or just the drink. Maybe it's just because I slept for 3 hours and then woke up suddenly. I was dreaming, which is rare. I don't usually dream.
I've been dreaming a lot lately, and I also don't usually dream. But I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I have also been consuming alcohol, but I didn't drink alcohol last night. But since I have started drinking, it has affected. I had a dream, actually. I had a dream that I was on a Russian U-boat. Is that a U-boat?
Yeah,
No.
German.
No, I'm sorry. Submarine. Sorry, the first word for me when it comes to submarine is not submarine, it's U-boat. Wintersay boat. Sorry. Anyway, a Russian submarine. But it wasn't a submarine. At some point it was, but then in the dream it morphed into an aircraft carrier in some icy sea. And I don't know why, but I was asking if I could just let the U.S. Navy know where I was. And
Sorry,
they said,
it's my first day.
and they're like, yeah, we're not going to do that. We're not going to let you contact them and let them know that we have you. I mean, they could. They absolutely could say, hey, we have one of your sailors. But they weren't going to do that in the dream. But at some point, actually, I woke up to my phone ringing in my dream, and I did have my phone. I'm like, oh, I guess I do have my phone. I guess I can contact them. And that's when one of my employees called me today. Poverty sucks.
Quack, 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 quack.
Right? What are we watching? Yes, that's good. Okay.
And they just all dive off. The best part of that.
This is going to be a bad ASMR video. So, you familiar with the word misophonia? Mm-hmm. Misophonia is when you have a problem, it's your problem, but really people can be rude. You hear sounds that you don't like that really get on your nerves. Usually it's something to do with, what's the word? Mastication. So, chewing sounds. People talking with their mouths open.
Are you watching the Angelica video about the Spanish Inquisition?
No. But I am live. With one thumbs up.
Are you actually streaming?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
I don't know about you, but I really, really don't like the sound of chewing. But I think the idea of chewing to piss someone off is hilarious. But that's not what I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to have my lunch. This lunch is brought to you by the way, this is not vegan. This is a chicken flavor. And this chicken flavor uses chicken fat, chicken stock, right? Even if it was the beef flavor, sorry, not the beef flavor, even if it was the oriental flavor, still uses beef stock, so you can't eat it if you're vegan. And I am vegan, with one tiny exception. Anyway, this meal brought to you by Mother-chan. At work, at Panda Express years ago, that used to be my nickname, Mother-chan. I'm like, why? And then my employee at the time was like, because you're hot and ready in 3 minutes. It wasn't true, but I will admit I did used to be a bit of a slut. Anyway. An awesome repast. So if you're poor and you're watching this, you can feel good knowing that you're not alone in eating crappy food. Because this is the food of poverty. I will say this. Man was not meant to live on carbs alone. Okay, so what's the agenda for today? It's a good question. Besides wasting my time and yours, I'm gonna go catch up on Twitter, see what news there is, right? Check up on Deutsche Welle, Friends 24. What's the other one I follow? Oh, I follow Tim Pool and the Daily Wire. I don't know if anybody follows those, but I do. Now, if you saw my video from yesterday, and you realize that was one of the rare cases where I'm actually not trolling, which I do like to do a lot, you realize I'm very liberal, but at the same time, in many ways, I'm also very conservative, and that puts me somewhere just left of the center. So, I still follow news agencies that are very conservative, or at least typically conservative. Now, there are those that wrongly label Ben Shapiro far right, and they're idiots. Ben Shapiro is not far right. Ben Shapiro is just regular right. He's just right. Sometimes he's wrong, but he's still right. You know what I'm saying? And I really respect him and recognize him as often close to the truth. Not 100% right all the time, most of the time, but at least he's trying. I think he's sincere. But sometimes I like to enjoy some of the fun he pokes at some of the people that I think are kind of stupid. Case in point, AOC is pretty stupid. Well, it takes someone of a special caliber to know when they don't know something, right? So you're stupid, but you're not that stupid. You're stupid enough that, or you're intelligent enough to know that, hey, this is outside of my field of expertise. I shouldn't be commenting on this. I just don't know. Ask someone else who's better at this. But then you have people that don't know what they don't know. And that would be AOC. AOC, I think, does think that she knows things because she's taught rhetoric and she's imbibed it so well. And I myself have absorbed a lot of that rhetoric. But at least I know that a lot of things that she proposes, that she believes in, aren't exactly feasible. Not without being much more invasive. More alienating. And doing ultimately so much more damage. So her economic plan, life as we know it would change and not necessarily for the better. We might argue it's morally better. And I kind of understand to a point where that might be true. Hold on. There's more I want to say on that. Hold on. I just wanted to finish this last bit. Be right back. Okay, so hold on. I've got a bit of noodle stuck in my tooth. It's not letting me shut my mouth without hurting myself. I'll have to be right back. Feeding in his natural habitat. Yes, Dalen. I'll be right back though. Stand by. Okay, so do excuse me. I had noodle stuck in my tooth in such an angle, and it was sharp because I was eating raw, uncooked noodles. Okay. Alright, so, what I want to say. AOC would propose economic policy that would not be necessarily economically good for us because it would mean forcing us to make concessions. And most importantly, They wouldn't just be um, the kind that affects your wallet, but they'd be moral concessions. So, for the greater good of humanity, for the greater good of the planet, she would force us. One, she would have taxes, right, that would penalize us for using more carbon. But she would also, uh, given the power, she would basically raise wages for everybody across the country, even for people doing basic labor where there's no effort whatsoever, right? And that would bring up the cost of living, right? She would say that's fine, that's okay. And why do I say it would bring up the cost of living? Because when you raise wages, then your markets are going to raise their prices. They're going to raise prices because they're going to make up the difference for the employees making more money. Everybody does this, and then essentially what you have is inflation. Now, that's in the short term. In the long term, you're looking at market regulation. It would force them not to do that. It would force the markets to freeze themselves or only slowly increase prices, right, to reduce that inflation. But that would also slow job growth. Um, you would find one, fewer employers employing people. That would actually probably push them in the direction of automation anyway. Not like they're not already in that direction with raising wages. But you're also looking at, besides that, they wouldn't be able to create new stores um, or create new positions. It's harder, it's disincentivizing them to create new positions if you know that you're going to have to pay them so much more than they were making. Um, but yeah, so they would have to, in order for AOC's policy to really work, you would have to have a direct market intervention in all markets, right? It might even be a blanket policy, but I doubt it because based on the different kinds of regulations you have on these different markets, I don't think that that's just something you could say one size fits all for every different market that's out there. It just wouldn't work. Um, so yeah, you see more market regulation. AOC won't talk about that though, but she would say, um, certainly she would see, and we would all see, the cost of living would go up, even to points where she wouldn't necessarily artificially deflate things or keep things static, right? She would say, well, of course, a can of Pepsi is $3 because we're no longer subsidizing corn, or because we don't pay. We used to not pay um, farmers what they're worth. We used to like people that would harvest corn, right? Uh, Everywhere along the supply chain, right? Suddenly we're paying everybody what they're worth, and that brings up the prices. And she'd say, well, that's just the cost of paying people a moral wage, right? That's where she would go with that. Um, and she has an argument. And certainly, if you look at Europe, the cost of living has been high for quite some time. They've had to endure very high petrol costs, like gas prices have always been high. Everything has been expensive in Europe for a long time, but they also have had higher wages. They're higher taxation, but more of that taxation goes towards things that they need. But it's, and you still have to bust your ass, right? So she would say, she would basically, her plan would be to put us on par with Europe, and I think that's actually the direction that a lot of socialists want to go, including Bernie Sanders. So this is a question. The question is, do we want to actually go that route? And I don't think we do. But I also don't know if it's fair to say that it's even sustainable. Because where we are, we've got it great, right? It's kind of like this. As a country, we are just out of college, but we're still living with our parents, right? Our parents aren't going to take care of us forever. They can't. Of course, in this metaphor, it doesn't quite work because we're the ones that are going to. I mean, we are paying for our parents' retirement. A lot of us millennials are doing that already. But just flip it and just say, this is where we are as a country. We're still living in our parents' house, and they're not going to let us stay here forever, right? At some point, we need to get a job. At some point, we need to actually be productive. And I'm not sure how that's going to work because we don't have skills. Because our degree is in, I don't know, some kind of useless degree like gender studies, something like that, right? Some liberal arts that is going to go nowhere. Maybe even philosophy. Lord knows philosophy is very valuable, but it's not something you want to actually get your doctorate in or your master's or whatever. You really want to focus on something that's more important. And the thing is, I think a lot of people go to college and take courses that they know that they can actually do well at. Maybe they think, oh, this is an easy grade because this is something I'm interested in, but the reality is it's not something that is going to make them any money. They're not thinking about that. They're just thinking, I'm just going to go to school for school's sake, right? Maybe that's not everybody. That's a lot of people, though. Even a lot of minorities will go to school and take courses that really won't benefit them, except for maybe as recruiting them as activists. I strongly suspect that that's where a lot of where that's going. And don't ask me to provide sources. I'm not going to do that. This is just anecdotal. So maybe I'm wrong and I don't care. Okay, that's just what I've seen. Let me see. Let me check comments real quick. See if anyone said anything. Nope, only that one. Okie dokie. Carry on. All right. So I think that's good. Enough about that. I did mention that I was gonna check Twitter for news, so we're gonna go do that. What about non-terrestrials? I don't believe in non-terrestrials, Dalen. I don't believe there's such a thing as a non-terrestrial. I don't believe in aliens. I don't believe in higher beings. I don't believe that there's some kind of, they're alien or like angels or trans-dimensional anything. I don't think that's a real thing. I think that that's a fantasy that a lot of us like to believe, just like people want to believe in God, right? Okay, so I'm gonna read the news. Give me 1 second. Let's just go see. Oh, someone reacted. Volume is very low. Volume is. How do I change volume on this? I don't know how to change the volume. Someone commented 4 minutes ago from my Facebook post. Said that the volume is very low. Maybe I just need to speak up. I'll work on that. Okay. Anyone follow Zero Hedge? Hedge is interesting. I don't like going to the website directly. Usually, or if I do, I like to click on whatever their sources are. Just because the website's full of so much shit that slows down my computer. I really hate that. But we're talking about Brexit. So let's just go click the link. Oh, wait. There's one. Oh, there we go. UK votes to leave the EU. Oh, this is old news. Okay. Alright, why am I reading something from ages ago? There must be an update on the information. UK exports EU versus non-EU. Anybody weigh in on the EU Brexit issue? Anyone feel like they're being sabotaged every step of the way? That no one really wants a Brexit except the people of Britain? Because that's what I feel like. I feel like they're stalling for another referendum. That's exactly what it feels like. Okay, let me see. Asia Times. Donald Trump's nomination of David Malpass to become president of the World Bank Group and CEO of the World Bank should be seen more as an opportunity than a problem. Oh, so in Chinese, crisis and opportunity mean the same thing, right? So this is a crisis too? Let's see. Anybody commented? Nope. Okay. So you can see this, eh? Okay, David. Alright, David, yes, I can see it because I'm checking in on Facebook every now and then. And no, I'm not going to show you my boobs. or vagine. Anyway. Someone. Alright. Astronomy compels the soul to look upward and lead us from this world to another. I mean, I'm sure that's true. I certainly like looking to the stars. And I definitely think that we should try to get off this planet. But at the same time, I don't really think. I'm not really a believer. How about that? Or if I am a reluctant believer. Alright, U.S. President Donald Trump's nomination of his Treasury Undersecretary David Malpass. It doesn't even sound like a good last name, like Mal, which means bad pass. I'm sorry, I'm just analyzing it wrong. To become president of the World Bank Group and CEO of the World Bank should be seen as more an opportunity than a problem by African leaders and other major borrowers. By one scenario, the U.S. could still secure a majority vote for the nominee, as they have in every bank presidential election since the institution's founding in 1944, but this shouldn't be viewed as cast in stone, given how threadbare previously staunch relationships have become, mainly due to Trump's erratic behavior. Even the U.S.'s European allies, including Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel, have shown a willingness to publicly criticize Trump and his policies in ways not heard since World War II. He certainly has done a lot of damage when it comes to our relationship with our allies. Added to this are concerns about Trump's misguided views, shared by Malpass, that multilateral institutions are hostile to U.S. interests. As New York Council on Foreign Relations expert Stuart Patrick, what? That's a funny name. Stuart Patrick. It's just like Patrick Stewart with a mustache. Argues Malpass's appointment could undermine the bank's invaluable work around the globe. So could his nomination be blocked, and how? There are 4 reasons why opposing Trump's nominee may be easier than it appears. Opposing Trump's choice. The first reason is that Trump may not survive in office much longer. Well, if we keep propping up people like Kamala Harris, who's supported Jussie Smollett, and turns out that Jussie Smollett is a liar, a lying-faced liar. Oh, well, the justice system says innocent until proven guilty, but there's strong evidence that he's a lying-faced liar. And Kamala Harris backed him. So, yeah, this is kind of embarrassing. She should have just kept quiet. But no, she decided to play the identity politics game, go use it to prop up this anti-lynching bill, which lynching's not a thing anymore. It's just not. No one's stupid enough to do it. If and when we do have a revolution, maybe there'll be something like that. But you're looking at a class-based revolution, and it's going to be something that involves maybe something like guillotines too. But that's going to be towards the wealthy, right? It's going to be on the level of, well, I don't see how it's going to take place any other way, unless we go to civil war, which we could. But more likely, it's going to be a class-based war, because that's the direction that AOC would like to take it. And I certainly see a lot of strong socialist elements going around. So yeah, if you're going to have something like lynching, maybe that's why the anti-lynching thing is there. The anti-lynching bill is just to prevent people from revolting. But that's like having, anti-gun laws. What's that going to do? If someone wants a gun, they're going to get a gun. If someone wants to shoot you, they'll shoot you. They'll find a way to get it, right? So just making a law against it isn't going to do any damn good. Anyway, in the end, Kim got the job on the back of then President Barack Obama's nomination. It's useful to note that Kim and Obama, I think I missed something. Hold on. Oh yeah, I completely missed that part. Secondly, reforms in nominating and appointing bank presidents in 2011 opened up the process for the first time in 2012. Then there were 3 finalists: Nigerian Ngozi, Ngozi, Okonjo-Iweala, Colombian Jose Antonio Ocampo, and U.S. candidate Jim Yong Kim. In the end, it was Kim that got the job. Back then it was President Obama's nomination. It's useful to note that Kim and Obama enjoyed far more international support than Malpass and Trump today. So, Let's see. I have a comment, maybe. All right. Let them eat. Let them eat GMO. You know, Dalen, I want to just say something real quick. I'm not against GMO on principle. It's not that there's something wrong with GMOs necessarily. It's that there's something wrong with certain kinds of GMOs. How you go about the GMO, right? Maybe we need more time testing. But besides that, and this is the most important thing, the most important thing about GMOs, making guillotines great again. Yeah, we could make guillotines great again. That was a very it was a very civil way of killing people back in the day. That was progress for the time. These days, progress is just not killing people; it's life in prison. But for those times, it's a very quick and humane way of killing someone because you sever the head, they lose blood so rapidly, they pass out and they don't really feel anything, right? Very brief pain and then they're gone. Within seconds, they're dead, or at least even if there's still some blood in the brain that they can sense something, they've already lost enough blood that they can't really feel anything at all, and that's fine. But I digress. Thank you for distracting me. I was talking about. I lost my train of thought. Oh well, I'll just keep reading. I'm sure that if I review this video, I'll be like, oh shit, that's what I was going to talk about. Alright, so thirdly, an important precedent was set last year when Trump's candidate to head the bank's National Organization for Migration was rejected by the United Nations members. The main reason was that his anti-Muslim statements were judged antithetical to its policies of inclusion. It was an unprecedented rejection. The office had been led by Americans since the 1960s. Yeah, well, it's understandable his position on some of this stuff, and here's why. Muslims, by and large, are, let's say, anti-progress. So if you're a liberal, it makes no sense whatsoever that you'd support Islam at all. You should want, actually, to discriminate against any country that lets in people of religion. I know it's going to sound crazy, but, like, yes, we have freedom of religion, but some of the more radical forms of Islam are in the countries that Trump wants to ban, right? And that makes sense to me, actually, because that radical form of Islam should never take root in here. We're having a hard time keeping the evangelical Christians at bay, and we have liberals, or so-called liberals, that are like, yeah, let's bring in these other monsters, right? So the nastiest religions out there, the most oppressive, the kind that think that genital mutilation is okay, and it's not, these assholes want to bring more assholes in. They're like, yeah, everybody's welcome. No, they're not. No, they shouldn't be. First of all, Islam is not congruent with our Constitution. If it given the opportunity, Islam would have Sharia law, because that's what they want, right? And in many of these countries, that's exactly what they want. They think that the Quran is right. They think that Muhammad had it right, and that we need to essentially be oppressive. They think that women should be subjugated, women should cover up, and that it's for the real good, of course, because men would be too tempted. Bullshit. I'm sorry, but no, I'm not gonna fall for that shit. And if there were any Christian country that were just as radical, I would say no, they shouldn't be here either. No religion, no culture. This is more important. This is the cultural aspect. We should not be importing cultures that are so toxic and say, well, that's going to enrich us. No, it's not. Nikki Haley was also right. I'm sure y'all are familiar with Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley had resigned as our ambassador. What? Wait a minute, I thought you were a Christian. Dalen, I'm not really much of a Christian. I have Christian leanings. How about that? I can't call myself a Christian. I'm sorry. I haven't been to church since 2008. I want to say 2008. I'm basically an agnostic at this point. You're not gonna see me attend religion or attend something like that. Anyway, so Nikki Haley resigned from what you call it, her role as ambassador, and she basically said that um, I think it was like the UN was a cesspool. I think she was talking about the Human Rights Committee. Thank you, Dalen. I guess it's cool. Hold on, I'm gonna check in real quick. If we have a revolution, I'll start lynching. David, David, don't lynch. Let's not lynch. Let's try. Even Marx, if I'm not mistaken, because I haven't read Marx actually. I I don't think I have read Marx. But I believe Marx had said that if you revolution, if you can go about change without going to revolution, you can go through it by peaceful means, by using the system to change it, do so. It's better. And I think if that's what he said, I believe that's right. It does make sense. Try and change things before you have to ever go to revolution. And part of that is because revolutions don't always have a resolution. It sounds kind of strange, but the aftermath doesn't always play out as it was intended. Whoever starts the revolution, the activists that really get it going, don't end up maintaining control. They might think they're going to, but it ends up being some other parties, some maybe even some wild cards that were reluctant to get in because they weren't sure it was going to be a sure thing. But once they saw that it was a sure bet, that's when they put all their resources into it and bought in, right? And then they end up taking over. So never trust a revolution. I certainly don't. Which is of course why anytime we see a revolution in the Middle East or in Eastern Europe, I am highly suspicious of it. So, yes, so the Human Rights Committee, with a number of Muslim countries on its board, or whatever the case is, I don't know how they're set up. Yeah, I think it's absurd to have them on there regulating countries for human rights when they're known for their atrocities, like Qatar and Yemen and Saudi Arabia. Obviously, Iran is a huge problem. Um, Basically, the Middle East in general doesn't treat people very well. If you're gay, if you're female, if you dissent against the Quran, right, then you're screwed. Even Christians have a hard time surviving in these countries. There's a lot of real persecution. Certainly in the African countries that are Islamic, Christians have suffered. There have been murders over this because you have more radical forms are trying to compete with that philosophy. They don't like that competition. So they'll murder them to move out that contending philosophy, right? So it's dangerous. It is a very dangerous religion, and we want to bring people in who may very well hold on to these very dangerous beliefs. Honestly, I think there's a very strong argument for secularism and promoting secularism in our policies, such as only letting people come into this country who are going to be secular. You know, I mean, if we can chastise companies for the behavior, right? We'll say we're not going to buy from you as long as you're, like for example, Alex Jones. We're not going to buy from these companies that Alex Jones is advertising for if he's going to keep spouting this rhetoric. So you need to pull your ads or whatever. They'll do this with CNN or some other agency that spouts fake news. Um, so we've certainly seen these kinds of policies, and then of course once they drop them, then we know that there's a real effect going on. You could do that with other countries too, and say we're not going to play ball with you unless you start turning secular. I think that's fine. Um, I'm not someone that thinks that religious protections should be the most important thing. Um, yeah, you do have freedom of speech. Sure, you should have freedom to practice your religion to a point, but I think there's a point, right? In certain settings, you absolutely shouldn't have those freedoms. Like, let's put it this way: when you're working for someone, you're on their time, right? If you're working for yourself, great. But if you're working for someone else, you're on their time, and you shouldn't say, "Oh, I'm not going to serve alcohol to this customer on this airplane because I'm Muslim and I don't believe in alcohol." No, sorry, you don't get that choice. Or if you're Indian, you can't say, "I'm not going to serve beef to this customer because we don't eat beef." Sorry, but that's not how that works. Christians also don't believe in working on Sundays. Jews don't believe in working on Saturdays. Or they don't work. They don't believe in working on their Sabbaths. Sabbaths. But if you're going to work for a company, you might have to make those concessions, right? We shouldn't be bringing people into this country who aren't willing to make certain concessions, unless, of course, they're self-employed. But we certainly shouldn't be letting them trying to influence our culture and our politics. And no, certainly we shouldn't let their money go towards any of that. I definitely think that so there is, I know I'm going all over the place, but there's an argument that says, maybe a lot of this could be settled if we just keep money out of places like, this is where my mind's going right now. It's like, I'm thinking about those people from out of the country. Some of them will come into this country and they'll want to build mosques and build, what are those called? Those Muslim schools, right? And some of them will lobby, will even try to sponsor local government officials to help make these things happen. And I think if we just, kept money out of politics, that would be a non-issue, because then they wouldn't get a start at all. Just prevent them from even taking root. You don't get to make any Muslim schools, you shouldn't make any Christian schools. Or if you're going to do it, you're going to do it with your own money. You're not going to let anyone get involved in that. And you're not going to ask the city for permits. If you want to do it out of your own house, or you already own the property, great, but filing for a permit to, no. I think it should be harder to establish any religious institutions in this country. I think that a world of good would be done if we just limited religious freedoms. Because religion is very damaging, I think. I know, that's kind of strange from my position, because I actually did used to be more supportive of religious freedoms, and these days not so much. I've seen a lot of damage done. And I think that there was absolutely a time when we needed religion in our lives. There was a time that religion actually was necessary in order to maintain order. Because we were much more tribalistic, but we were also very immature. We didn't understand things. We didn't understand consequences of our actions. So if you look at the Bible, and specifically towards the Old Testament, you see a lot of crazy rules, but those crazy rules did make sense for the time, right? Don't eat pork because trichinosis. They didn't know what the hell that was. Like, oh, what's a parasites? Well, what are these things? I can't see them except for with a microscope, right? Don't eat shellfish because of allergies, because of autoimmune reactions, right? Religion, politics is all tribalism to me. Thing is, religion, well, a lot of it is, but anything can become a religion, and anything can become tribalistic. Anytime you have a group and a group identity, it certainly can turn that way. Hold on, David Hall says, you could point at individuals in a belief system who pervert its core values and fault the belief system. However, that would be a fallacy. You have to look at the teaching of that belief system, not the bad examples of that system. In the case of Muslims, if an individual pursued its teachings wholeheartedly, at the end, if they would strap on something, I'm not gonna say the word, underwear, and try to make as many infidels as he could out. Take as many infidels as he could out, because their belief is that this is the means by which they will take over the world. If one pursues the teachings of Christianity, they practice love, joy, peace, long-suffering, temperance, kindness, meekness, and humbleness, because that's its core teaching. Yes and no. All right, so David, let me explain this one. Christianity may very well be used to reinforce suffering, because one of the things about Christianity is saying blessed are the poor, blessed are the meek, for you shall inherit the earth, right? There's all this talk about don't worry about all these material things because you're going to have all these treasures in heaven, right? There's a stronger focus on the afterlife and less on the here and now. Don't ask about what will I eat, what will I drink, what will I wear, because the Lord will provide these things for you. And so while it seems like, oh well, that's good because we're not focused on getting things, then we're not warring with each other, right? These things will be provided. And in some ways, if you look at it, the way that the apostles lived, they were very socialist. They did share clothes and food, and if you didn't work, you didn't eat, which is a very communist thing. Um, but I don't know. I've lost my train of thought. I don't. I think it ultimately it's it can absolutely be, and it has been before actually, certainly with slaves. One of the things that was used to reinforce slavery in this country was the position that you don't need to focus on a better life or worry about your suffering because you're going to have it better off in the afterlife. Of course, some people also would imply that it was their fault in some way too. Certainly, the Mormons implied that. If you know anything about the Mormons, they basically say that people of color have blood on their skin, like blood on their hands, for murdering this other tribe. And it's nonsense. All of it's just nonsense. Anything that promotes this nihilistic perspective um, can be dangerous. It can basically say, well, it's okay that you're in this position because things will be better later, just not in this life. It's a nice little fairy tale to believe in, but do you really want to put all your hopes into that one? I mean, how much faith do you really have? I don't know. Being humble, being selfless, certainly can be a good thing. But what about when people rely on you and you're so selfless that you're not even taking care of those around you? Let's say you're like, well, I can do without. Yeah, you can, but your family can't, right? So you need to work harder. You need to be more selfish and look more towards your family's survival than trying to help out the whole community. A great example of this kind of over charity is if you ever played Red Dead Redemption 2, there's this guy who's dying. He's just dying. He's got tuberculosis, and he ends up getting the shit beat out of him because he doesn't have the money to pay up for these loans that he's taken out. He's trying to build like was it a house for like an orphanage or something like that. It's something that's very charitable. But he's not even taking care of his family, and so what's the point? You should take care of your own first. It really should be like that. And I think that a lot of human history follows that direction. That's where tribalism came from in the first place. Is you take care of your own first, and then later on, you take care of your allies. And you at some point you can extend this idea of humanity, but really there's a practicality to it. It's less about charity and more about this is a pragmatic behavior. You help out your allies because later on they might help out you. David Hall says the idea of not focusing on material things is a practice for those who need to overcome greed. It's not intended to remove one from reality. As a matter of fact, the book begins by explaining creation, and from that point on is a philosophical look at how life works. It's completely focused on physical law or natural law. Well, maybe to some point. But when you get to the New Testament, it starts breaking away from that. So I don't know. And definitely the application of it hasn't come out well because the application of it is the exact opposite. So the application ends up focusing more on the opposite message of the New Testament instead of being more nihilistic and less materialistic. It ends up being well, you have the whole concept of like health and wealth. If you're right with God, then you're going to be prosperous. Great North Korean Raccoon says debunk flat Earth. Debunk flat Earth? Really? No, I'm not going to do that. Flat Earth is debunkable very easily. You just Google it. There's so much information. I mean, you can see videos from the tests getting into outer space, recent tests about like SpaceX and all that. You can see the curvature of the Earth in some of these videos. So, you know, it's not hard to see that the Earth is actually round. I don't care about that. People that think that the Earth is flat, they're pretty stupid. Well, maybe no. They're selectively stupid. They don't even realize it. They're not all stupid. I think. Well, let's get onto that topic. Skeptics, right? Skeptics, for one reason or another, something gets them on this tangent of exploring um, conspiracy theories. Hold on. I don't believe in gravity. I don't care if you don't believe in gravity. You don't need to for it to exist. Um, so people will get into conspiracy theories for one reason or another. Maybe there's a great example where they had seen that something turned out to be true and like, oh, well, maybe these other conspiracies are true as well. And then they start seeing evidence. They get more information and they don't understand what they're looking at. They don't realize it's incomplete information or misleading information because they're not experts in these fields. And they end up buying more and more of it, right? And maybe you have a website that's 10% of it's telling the truth, 90% of it is false. And because that 10% is true and the rest of it, they don't know if it's true or not, they start taking it on faith because that 10% ends up being more or less true. But I have noticed that people that buy into the flat earth conspiracy also buy into other conspiracies as well, such as the transpiracy. All these celebrities are secretly transgender. Like, are you shitting me? So, like, last month, I want to say it was last month, I had encountered a student, I want to say it was last month, but maybe it was before then, I don't know. A student who had laid out a table and was professing that the earth was really flat, right? And then he starts talking about all these other stupid things. Like, for example, doesn't believe that gravity is real. Are you shitting me? Has a completely far-fetched fantasy about what really makes things work. Where he doesn't believe in electricity. I'm not even kidding. I'm like, where are you getting all this shit? Why do you think that this is true? And yeah, so he brings up the transparency, and then he gets everything wrong. Like he starts guessing about celebrities, and I show him a picture of people who are transgender, and it's like, no, these people are cisgender. Oh, well, how do you know? Well, because, and he starts listing off their qualities. Okay, well, good for you. That means that these people are passable. Awesome. But you're wrong. Um, so anyway, I've encountered a number of these kinds of people before, just not in person, and yeah, they generally believe in all these conspiracy theories, and I have people in my family that do as well. Okay, David Hall says, because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God hath showed it unto them. Oh, he's using the old spelling too. I have nothing wrong with using that spelling. Romans 1, chapter 1, verse 20 through 21. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by things that are made. New Testament. And I believe that quote about, that which may be known of God is manifest in them is basically saying, even an atheist, so it doesn't matter, at some point or another, mankind is going to know God's truth. And I think that's also used by even Catholics to say that if they know God's truth, and even if they haven't adopted Christianity, if they follow that truth, they can still go to heaven, if I'm not mistaken. All right. I've got a notification. Oh, yes. I'm still getting flack from my stream yesterday. Hold on. The DMT mystical experiences have given me truths not known by the sheeple. John Nay, do you mind explaining what that means? I'm curious what that means. What truths has DMT revealed to you? DMT is the dream drug, right? The dream chemical that your brain already creates, but you experience that chemical while you're awake. Am I correct in that? Can you explain that to me? Before I have to Google it. I mean, I could Google this, but I'd rather not. So if you can just respond in real time, that'd be great. All right, I'm gonna go back to this other comments. He says, "Oh, they were just complimenting me. I'm not really big on compliments. I'm not a fan of flattery. Um, but I'm being asked to say thanks, so thanks. Anyway, all right. So, John Nay, you said yes. Okay. And John Nay, is that how you pronounce your last name? Is it Nay? I'm not even sure if Nay is even your real last name, but I'm gonna call you John Nay, like Johnny. Um, okay. So, based on your last comments, you said that. Oh, you are correct. Okay, cool. Um, so Johnny basically says that yes, it is the chemical that lets you dream while you're awake, essentially, right? So, um, maybe there's something in it. Dreams certainly can be revelatory, right? You can experience. Well, you can dreams. There's a utility to dreams, and he just says, "I just want to put you on the spot." Thanks, David. Um, there's a utility to dreams, right? Dreams can help you work things out that you otherwise couldn't while you're awake. It helps you um, like there's a lot of brain power that maybe you don't have. Maybe maybe you'll take something that you're working on, you put it into your subconscious, and then later on when you're dreaming, then you start processing that in your dreams, and an answer can come to you in your dreams. Sometimes the dreams can also manifest things that are you might put into your subconscious, like you'll see something that has some symbolism in the waking life, and you just make little annotations, right? And you'll make annotations throughout your day. Someone says something and reminds you of something, but you don't consciously like really reflect on that in that moment. You just make a little annotation, and then when you dream, then those annotations come up and you start reviewing your day, right? Or it might not just be a day, it might be the course of a couple of days. And then your brain puts it together and tries to forge links between things, right? I think that's what your brain is doing when you're dreaming. So there's some kind of utility to it. Um, but sometimes it can and definitely help. Like I said, it helps you forge connections, and maybe you might be trying to find a connection all day in your conscious thoughts, but it's just out of reach, right? You just couldn't get around it. But then when you're asleep, you forge that connection somehow, because maybe there was maybe not a consciously rational way to go about it, but that irrational way that didn't make sense, but there's still some kind of logic to it. So that dreams allow you to bend reality in a sense in such a way that makes sense. But sometimes truth isn't always, uh, what's the word for it? Intuitive. Truth doesn't always, it's something that um, you just look at and be like, yeah, steps around something. Maybe you don't realize it's just the angle, right? And you're like, well, am I looking at something? It's like, I'm trying to find a good analogy. Anyway, I'm not going to try to waste your time with forging a shitty analogy. All right. So, why are we talking about DMT? DMT. Okay, so you're talking about your revelations through DMT. Can be a good thing. Maybe there's an argument for it. There's also an argument for using other psychotropics. Is this psychotropic? Shrooms, are those psychotropics? If at least when you die, it is more possibly. I don't know. I don't know the first thing about this kind of thing. Shrooms, I believe, are psychotropics, and as from what I heard, it's lagging. Rest in peace. I am sorry if it's lagging. Um, maybe my phone's losing power, and maybe it's struggling, and who knows. Yeah, maybe rest in peace to the stream. All right. But so I think I remember hearing Terence McKenna, and you're gonna be like, "Why are you listening to Terence McKenna?" But years ago, I was crashing on a friend's couch. I woke up and I was listening to Terence McKenna because that's the kind of thing he listens to. Anyway, there's something about recollections. People that took these very small doses of shrooms were able to recall more items in a room than without. Somehow they stood out more. And So apparently it's good for memory, at least for when it comes to objects. I don't know much about it though, but I do know that there's a lot more research going into using drugs for legitimate reasons, right? Not just recreationally. What do y'all think about Mexico legalizing marijuana? Anybody heard about that? Because apparently that's a thing. I have no idea what that's going to mean. Maybe the drug cartels are just going to be too baked to wage war on people. I doubt it. Um, the drug cartels do own the country, from my understanding. Um, it's a very dangerous place to live. It's like mafia land, right? It's the whole country is one big family, or it's a bunch of families of mafias, always warring with each other. Slacking up, bigger wall. Okay, bigger wall. We don't need a wall. I mean, maybe we do. I don't know if it's a good thing. I don't think it's a real serious lag. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do with the lag. Maybe I could. Let's try this. Hold on. Maybe if I plug in the phone, and it'll. Hold on. Maybe it just needs power. That's what I'm saying. I'm sure you heard that sound. That was the buzzing of my phone. All right. So maybe the wall can do some good. I'm not sure what is real anymore. Well, I have to wonder about that too. I mean, there are a lot of people that believe that we're living in a simulation. But how the hell is Trump our president? Back to the wall. The wall can be a deterrent for people trying to get into the country. It means that they have to go the long way around, and maybe it'll result in fewer people trying to get in. Maybe knowing that they're not wanted by this administration. Who knows? I think it may very well be a waste of time and resources, but the fact is, there is a legitimate argument about securing our borders. Really, we shouldn't have an open borders policy where anyone can just come in and out anytime they want. We do need to have people actually patrolling the borders. Maybe just a human wall. Maybe using AI. Maybe having drones in high altitude that can stay in high altitude for a very long time and can see people and then give warning to on the ground forces. Maybe that's what we need. Certainly we have the technology for that, and it might be more feasible too. I do know that we have drones that can literally stay up for days. You can even have some that are tethered as well, that are solar powered. So there's no reason why we can't do that. I'm not sure where's that? Skynet. Skynet, yeah. I don't know enough about the story of Skynet, actually. I haven't seen Terminator in a long time, so I don't know what Skynet really was supposed to be about. I do know that it's what supposedly led to the Terminators being in the first place, something like AI, but I'm not saying that we need AI. Lord knows they're already taking over, but we could have drones high in the air. Maybe have them up like, I don't know, 5,000 feet. Could be tethered. Who knows? But they could be solar powered, and they could just scan the environment. If they see they could have infrared. If they see anyone trying to cross the border, just alert authorities. Simple as that. Catch them then and there. So you have like an invisible border, right? You can technically get in and out, but at your own risk because you're going to get caught. I don't see a problem with that. I think that might be more feasible. But the border wall itself, the way he wants to do it, is kind of stupid. I think ultimately he's making the same kind of concession that Obama did. The border wall is for Trump what Obamacare was for Obama. Obamacare is shit. It's absolute shit. It has done a lot of damage. May have done some goods for people who are very, very poor, right? Who can't afford any insurance at all. But what it has done for the majority of Americans is jack up their prices. And it's just not a good deal. I would preferred this they wanted, but he made a lot of concessions. He wanted something that he could actually, he wanted a product. This is a problem that a lot of businesses make, by the way, and they're more concerned about just getting a product out than having something that's quality. So Obama made that concession. Trump has certainly made that kind of concession when it comes to the wall, because he was talking about this big wall, and now we're talking about a fence. And even the fence, our government doesn't want to fund. You can't blame him, but the fact is, that's how desperate Trump is, because he needs that win. Because if he doesn't get his wall, he's not going to get reelected. But you have to ask yourself the question: what's the point of being reelected if you're impotent, right? We have the most impotent, I'm not even kidding, the most impotent man in the White House that we've ever had. He has no real power. I honest to God think, this is where I think he is right now, that he is basically like a child sitting at a little play table, right? And he's pushing all these cute little buttons at the play table, and he thinks he's actually sitting in the Oval Office desk, right? And it makes all these cute sounds like choo choo, boing boing, and like, oh, I'm president. And the whole time he's watching Fox and Friends as he's playing on this little table. You know those little walkers that have like a tray around them, and then they have little things for the kids to do, the little toddlers. Yeah, that's basically where Trump is right now. He doesn't know what he can really do. I don't even think that he's gonna be given the launch codes. I don't think that anyone wants to show him where to find them. So I think Obama certainly could do more and did do more. But the fact that we have a president who is a reality TV star of sorts, I think powers that be decided, you know what, we're going to let you have the presidency, but we're not going to let you have any power at all. And he knows that he doesn't have any real power, but he still wants that power anyway. He still wants to look like he's done something, because it's all about his name. It's all about his image. And that's a real problem, because the thing is, Trump could actually do a lot of good. A great example is, what was it? Let me Google this real quick, just so I don't get this wrong. Hold on. Trump, Islam, gay. All right. Hold on. Let's look. News, tools, recent, let's say past week. Let's try Trump gay. How about that? Okay, CNN. Right. Trump administration's effort to combat LGBTI criminalization shows commitment to individual rights, right? And of course, if you saw that one article from The Advocate, it was some gay magazine, Out magazine, yeah, basically said that, well, it's racist, right? Jadis, you're keeping me awake. I want to go, but I'm compelled, as if one is at a scene of glorious train wreck. Thank you. This is a train wreck. All right. Can't look away. But yeah, so Trump can do some good, right? The media doesn't want to admit it anytime he does any good, but he can do good. And so, speaking up on behalf of the LGBTI, good for him. Let's commend that. We absolutely need to commend that. If someone does right, let him know. Keep that up. We want to see more of that shit. Look at it like ratings, right? When you get good ratings, okay, produce more of that. Get bad ratings, okay, that didn't fly.
Never
right?
fly first class.
Hold
Runs
on.
flying.
It's commercial. All right, that's what I get for being on CNN's webpage. Anyway, point is, and actually, I think that Trump does that. Trump does have this tendency to float ideas, and then when it doesn't fly, he's like, or when it doesn't float, he's like, just kidding. He walks it back, right? It's a classic tactic of his. So we could give him positive feedback as liberals, true liberals. We could give him positive feedback. A true liberal would not support Islam. I don't see how you can. Not without. It's kind of like the Christians that cherry pick shit. Sorry, but no. Yeah, so let's give him that positive feedback that he needs, right? Let him know, do that kind of stuff. Stop alienating our allies. Um, Stop intervening in other countries. Tulsi Gabbard is absolutely right about that too. She's spoken out against intervention. That's not our problem. We really don't need to deal with that kind of shit. But yeah, when it comes to the things that he does right, we generally don't give him that feedback. Instead, we tend to give him the opposite. We tend to say, "Oh, you did wrong," so he doesn't know. He doesn't know what he's doing right or wrong. Everything's just wrong. If it's from the left, no matter what he does is wrong. Trump is a self-proclaimed genius. Yeah, Trump. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard that, but yeah, it's like when you say "great job, Einstein," right? So no one really means it when if they call him a genius, and if he thinks he's a genius, I think I remember him talking about how high his IQ was. He's not. I think Trump isn't absolutely stupid. He might be average IQ. I think more than anything, it's his personality that makes up for his deficit of IQ. But in this age, it doesn't work because he's a relic from a different time. In the 1980s, you absolutely needed someone like that, I'm sure. When it came to, board meetings, you needed someone that could upset the status quo, right? Someone that could be unsettling at a cultural level. He would be like a barbaric. He wouldn't maintain niceties, right? You needed someone like that. I think Jimmy James in News Radio tried to parody Trump on his behavior, and for a time that actually worked. But in this age, it doesn't fly, right? So this man at our helm doesn't fly. He's just not what we need. What we need is someone with passion and who doesn't alienate our allies and who's going to be committed to seeing something through. And the thing is, Trump doesn't actually have anything that he really wants to do. He just really doesn't want anyone to have that seat either, it seems. Um, in some ways, he reminds me of Swanson. Ron Swanson keeps his position because his belief is that government should be small and shouldn't really be doing anything. It shouldn't be wasting your tax dollars, right? So, less developments. Just, if you're going to have the departments, keep it at a minimum, right? So he doesn't do jack. I think that's where Trump is right now. He just doesn't do jack. He talks a lot, right? Most of what he's doing is talking. And there's not much you can do with talking except get yourself into trouble or get this country into trouble, which is what he's been doing. But every now and then he does something well, like, for example, reaching out to North Korea, but then he also says some stupid shit. And that's sort of, for every 5 steps of progress, we lose 3, right? Sometimes we lose 6 steps, depending on how royally he screws something up. But I think that's just how he does things. So we really don't need such a vocal president. Obama actually got a lot more done, I think. He got a lot more done. He also got a lot of bad things done. Like, we know that he rounded up more illegal aliens, and if you think that's a bad thing, then that's a really bad thing, right? He locked up a lot of people, potentially innocent people, right? He also drone striked a lot of people. A lot of innocent people died, collateral damage. But he didn't broadcast all that shit, right? He kept mum on a lot of shit. So Obama wasn't perfect, but at least he wasn't embarrassing, right? I think that's where we are. So Trump absolutely needs to learn to get off Twitter. He has a social media addiction for sure. And someone needs to, you know what, he actually might save face if he shows that, what? President Arja, if you want her for U.S. No, you don't want me as a president. I'm not qualified for the job. I don't think even the people who have the last 10 presidents were probably qualified for the job, really. Anyway. I lost my train of thought. Thank you so much for that. I think I've talked about President Obama. Anyway, let's just say that Trump. Yeah. Okay. Now I know where I was going. I was saying that Trump could save face if he just said, "Hey, I have problems. I'm gonna work on them. I'm gonna get off of social media, and I'm only gonna broadcast when it's important. And I'm gonna really start." And Eric and Brett Weinstein, um, Heather, what's her name? Heather. You have to forgive me on this one. Heather Haying. Basically, people that are closer to the IDW, I agree with them on a lot of their assessments, right? Um, I don't think that we should ever throw the baby out with the bathwater. Even the stuff like intersectional shit, some of it's right, some of it's not to the degree they say it is, but some of it's right. And certainly the approach of using that information, weaponizing that information, it's absolutely fallacious, right? So basically, accusing uh, those in power of malice is wrong, right? Saying you're part of the problem is wrong. They don't know how to change culture the right way. But the leftists with power certainly want to use all of their influence. And it seems like game on because they're pouring millions of dollars into really radically renovating this culture. That's where we are right now, I think. We are in a huge, huge culture war, and that needs to we need to get a grip on it because we're going to lose our national identity, right? Our values, what's important to us. The Constitution, I don't think is going to survive this culture war. I'm not even kidding. For certainly, freedom of speech is going to be abridged. That's a real thing. We're already seeing that manifest just because of the behavior of the tech giants. But it just comes down to this. The behavior of the tech giants is basically creating a deviation from the norm and deviation from our culture, right? Saying you don't have a right to say that. You don't have freedom of speech because hate speech, because of harm, because of perceived harm, right? And after a while, we get used to it. And then once we're used to it long enough, then we change the rule. So a deviation over time becomes the norm over time becomes the rule, right? And that rule is you don't have freedom of speech. And guess what? A lot of the world actually believes that. You go to Germany, you don't have freedom of speech. In this country, you're free to be a Holocaust denier, right? And the Holocaust did happen. And if you are a Holocaust denier, you're probably an idiot. But be that as it may, you have the freedom to be an idiot. You have a freedom to deny things and even tell people that you denied and that you don't believe any of this stuff happened. You can provide all the evidence that you want. You can make your case. You have that freedom in a country like ours, and I love that. Because we also have the freedom to provide evidence against your stupid arguments, right? So in Germany though, freedom whatsoever. If you are a Holocaust denier, they cannot put you in jail over that shit. I'm not even kidding. So I think that's the direction we're going. We're the European Union right now, and that scares me because I love this country. I really love who we are, what we've achieved, but the culture war is tearing us apart, and I think it's not accidental. I really think it's tied into globalism. I think globalism wants to get everybody on the same playing field. That does not make me comfortable. But I don't know what else we can do. Because the reality is, the biggest opposition in this culture war is going to be from more of an extreme portion of the right side of that portion either. And that same portion is not as tolerant as the center, obviously. Definitely not as tolerant as portions of the left. Lord knows that a lot of the left isn't very tolerant either. So I just don't know where we're going. Anyway, I guess I'm gonna cut the stream. I'm just gonna end the stream because there's not much else to talk about right now. Unless y'all have anything else you want to bring up last minute, any comments. Otherwise, I'm gonna just end the stream. I'll give you like I don't know. The stream's lasting for 1 minute, 1 hour, 21 minutes. So I'll give you like 3 minutes. I'll answer any questions for the next 3 minutes or respond to anything for the next 3 minutes. I see three viewers, but I don't know if any of y'all are actually watching. Did I miss any comments meanwhile? Nope. Okay. Alright, well. By the way, I don't know if anybody follows Tim Pool, but if you don't follow Timcast, you should. Timcast is awesome. Other shout outs. There was someone whose name is Clara, KLARA _SJO. So if you're on Twitter, you should follow her. She's got some really fun stuff, a lot of fun posts. Who else can I shout out? If you don't follow CJ Pearson, you should. I don't know if you do. Who else? I'm just gonna give a shout out to people. So if you're on Twitter, yeah. If you're on Twitter, I'll shout you out right now. I'll just let people know to follow you or whatever. Just to know that you exist out there. Helen Pluckrose. You should follow Helen Pluckrose. That's how it sounds. Pluckrose. She's fun. So she's one of the hoax authors. I believe she's one of the authors of these fake studies, right? So the grievance studies, I'm sure you're familiar with them. She's part of the trio. And she's actually pretty witty. Who else can I give a shout out to? Oh, and what's the name of her actual Twitter is H Pluckrose. As simple as that. Okay. Anyone else? Oh, probably malorthography. Let me see. What is her name? She changes her name so damn much. Because she always wants people to be educated and look up her middle name. So this time her name is Miss Casinaria Spells. Casinaria, which is CASINERIA, or Charlie Alpha Sierra India November Echo Romeo India Alpha. So it's at malorthography, which is basically the French spelling for misspelling, if I'm not mistaken. Mike Alpha Lima Oscar Romeo Tango Hotel Oscar Golf Romeo Alpha Papa Hotel India Echo. So malorthography. Follow her. She has some pleasant tweets. She's not really the kind of person that bumps any heads. She's a very, very pleasant person to follow, is what I'm saying. Who else? Anyone else? I see I have one more follower. Anyone else, or not follower, but viewer? Present. Said. 1 second. Why are you such a hardcore Christian? Crack House Librarian, I am not a hardcore Christian. Don't dare accuse me of that. Crack House, do you want anyone to follow you? I'm just giving out shout outs. Obviously you should follow at Real Donald Trump. Not because you like him, but because he's just got, you just follow his tweets and then you can know for sure what the shit that he's saying, and not just something that you see secondhand, right? Because often we'll see his tweets secondhand. It's nice to see it firsthand. I did a live show yesterday, and I'm going to do one in a few hours. Come in the chat, and you can join the show if you want. What chat are you talking about? I'm not even sure. Are you a follower of mine on Twitter? Are you 7? I don't know if you're 7. Do you know who 7 is? 7's a follower of mine. I'm not sure if you're the first. If thinking of. Well, it's gone past that mark. Okay. Well, I just want to stay on a little bit longer just to give shouts out. Is there anyone you guys want to recommend for following on Twitter? Because there are some good people. Otherwise, I'm just going to go to my... Oh, I found you the other day on YouTube. Do you remember Shannon in the chat room and that transphobic dude? Probably. Hold on. I'm not sure what you mean about the other day, but it might have been like the other week. Okay. Anyway, what is this other chat room, other video you're talking about? So you do live streams? What is your content? I might follow you on Facebook. In fact, or not Facebook. Why I say Facebook? My brain goes straight to Facebook. You know when I log on, sometimes I'll be on Facebook and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to type in Twitter on the URL, and I start typing in Facebook. It's like Facebook has conditioned me to go back to Facebook. Okay, so Dalen said pig, and then said never mind. I guess I'm a pig. I'm probably a pig. I'll agree. I'm a pig. I certainly can be. What's the word? Voracious. Anyway, let me see real quick. Let's type in YouTube. All right. Okay. Okay, Dalen, you're funny. All right, let me go to YouTube real quick. What is your YouTube, Crack House, if you don't mind? Then I can watch your videos later because I don't have much time right now. Meanwhile, I was going to go to my own Twitter and look at the people I follow and just let you guys know to follow them, right? Oh yes, Titania McGrath. If you don't follow Titania McGrath, you absolutely need to. I mostly call people and I tell them wacky stories over the phone or find a manipulative way to piss people off. But is it in a fun way? Like, would I derive humor out of it? I'm not sure. Alright, so Titania McGrath. Do you know how to spell it? It is, so she's at Tango, India, Tango, Alpha, November, India, Oscar, Mike, Charlie, Golf, Romeo, Alpha, Tango, Hotel. Alright, for example, yesterday the show was me texting people that there was a $2 donation to take out of their account. Then I called them afterward and listened to them freak out about a scam that didn't really happen. It's pretty funny. Okay, so you're doing lame practical jokes. Awesome. Good for you. So, other people you can follow. Andingo. Andingo. I'm pretty sure he's Vietnamese. He writes for Quillette and some conservative rag, I'm not sure. But he's actually a really good journalist. He's one of those actual on-the-ground journalists that really gets the real story, not just secondhand shit. He's there and he's actually showing proof of what's going on, right? He's helping to document history accurately instead of just letting people piece together history from sensational journalism, which is what's going to happen. Follow Jimmy Dore and Aaron Mates on Twitter. Jimmy Dore and Aaron Mates. Okay. I'll try to remember that. I'm not sure if they're gonna be my cup of joe, but okay. Who else? People that you should follow. Do you follow Sarah Jeong? I'm sure some of you know who she is. I follow her just because she's controversial and she can be a troll. I can appreciate trolls. I don't hold it against her. I guess it depends on if you are as far left as I am, an outspoken SJW. Krakows, do you know that I'm not an SJW, although certainly at times, but most of the time I seem conservative. But the reality is, I'm very liberal, right? If you saw my live stream yesterday, that pissed a lot of people off and wasted a lot of time. It was an hour 47 minutes, I believe. It was a really shitty stream, very shitty. But I was trying to clarify some stuff with people on sexuality and gender and gender identity, and I just pissed off the gay community basically. Um, anyway, people to follow besides that, Steven Pinker is a good guy to follow. He's S.A. Pinker at S.A. Pinker, right? I also follow Candace Owens. I don't know if anybody else does, but I do follow her, as well as Jacqueline Glenn. Um, Odd, I haven't seen anything from Lacey Green lately, but I do follow her. When's the last time she actually tweeted? Not since the 21st of January. Holy shit, I hope she's okay. I really hope she's okay. Claire Lehman, you should follow her. Absolutely. Same with Dave Rubin. Eric Weinstein, Brett Weinstein, Heather Hang, Bill Maher, Count Dankula. Absolutely Count Dankula. I love that guy. He's an awesome bastard. An SJ was someone who was triggered, was triggered is a word indistinguishable from, and I lost it. Shit. From bothered by social injustice. Are you bothered by systemic social injustice? Triggered is more than that. That's an oversimplification. It's a, I think you're providing the edgy definition of it. A good example. Facebook will hide questionable content, right? It'll actually put a mask over something, or blur something out, and say, "Do you really want to click on this?" Right? Because it might be violence or whatever. It turns out it's just a duck with will look like fire over his head, right? Something stupid like that. But it's worried that you might be triggered by the image because it's whatever. Can you find a single example of someone using the word triggered when they can't replace it with the word bothered? I mean, yeah, but to be truly triggered, right? Truly triggered. A great example is me. I don't like looking at certain kinds of certain kinds of creepy crawlies, right? I'm not gonna say what it is, but basically certain kinds of things that are dying off in an apocalypse, en masse, I think is great. But when I see pictures of them on social media, and it's like in my face, and it's like one of my hugest fears that makes me want to run away, I'm triggered. It's a real triggering issue. I can totally get that, right? But when you're talking about something that isn't actually traumatizing, right? It isn't something that you have an irrational fear about, which, by the way, probably does warrant counseling, right? If you're actually triggered, it warrants counseling, and it's not healthy. And people that say, well, I can't be around this because it triggers me, sorry, but that's your problem. That's really your problem, and you should stop trying to get people to accommodate you. If it's a real problem for you, then move away, right? Don't look at it. Don't be around it, right? Ask people to be kind to you and say, hey, this is something that you might want to avoid or learn how to handle better, right? That's fine. But just trying to say, we should ban shit because it's triggering, no, I think that's wrong. If you read The Coddling of the American Mind, you know how dangerous that can be. Can you find this thing? Hold on. You're deluding yourself instead of using the you're deluding yourself instead of using the colloquial use of triggered. You're using the reasonable definition, which isn't common. Well, I don't think anyone who says, like I said, it's overused, right? So I don't think that most people who are triggered are really legitimately triggered, and yeah, they probably are bothered. Although some people might actually be triggered because they're conditioned to think that they should be more reactive, right? They might actually get themselves into a frenzy over it because they never learned to handle things that are just a slightly bothersome. And so it's like having raw skin, right? Your skin is peeled away. You have nothing protecting you. And so the slightest touch sets you on fire, right? That's how it feels. I think that's kind of where we are, where we've got this bubble around us and we just can't handle subjects that are touchy in any way. We need to maintain this distance for our own health, but that's not right. That's not healthy. People that get triggered are really a problem. They're Jonathan Haidt and Greg Lukianoff liken it to the peanut allergy, peanut exposure, right? So people that have avoided peanuts their whole lives, they're more likely to have strong reactions to peanuts than people that are subjected to it from smaller amounts over the years. They end up getting a tolerance to it because their bodies realize that it's not actually a problem. People often use the words triggered to mean bothered enough to respond. Triggered is a word that needs to be embraced by the left. No, it does not. Triggered is, I think you're trolling me. I'm quite convinced of that now. Um, triggered is just used ironically online, right? No one's really triggered for the most part, except when it's like bugs, right? If it's bugs, sure, you're triggered. If it's, some people can't stand the sight of blood. They really cannot stand blood. How would I be trolling you right now other than saying that you're slightly wrong? I don't know. Maybe I'm too tired. I don't care. I do not care. I'm not going to pursue this. Right? I'm too triggered to pursue this. So, some people can be triggered by little things because they have an irrational fear. Healthy to cuddle 12-year-olds or trigger. What? That seems like a problem. I don't think it's healthy. You should not be trying to cuddle 12-year-old. If it's your own family member and you just want to be close to your family member in a non-sexual way, great. But that shouldn't be a thing that you pursue. Like, yes, I need more of that in my life. Cuddling 12-year-olds. You might have a problem. Try to avoid that. Consider that might not be healthy at all. And move on. You have an irrational fear of other people manipulating you. The only reason you think I'm a troll is because friends of yours haven't held your feet to the fire. Okay, well, I don't care. I might have an irrational fear of people manipulating me. That might very well be true. And maybe you're able to pick up on psychology that I have not picked up on with reflection. I don't care. All right, that's just how I am right now, and I'm fine with that. I can live a peace like that. I don't think it hinders my ability to live in this society. Whereas a lot of people that say they're triggered by other subjects often hamper themselves. You don't care if you have an irrational fear, and you also think that the word triggered shouldn't be embraced. You have very conflicting thoughts in your head. I don't think those are irreconcilable. I don't see how those are irreconcilable. But then again, maybe I'm mad. I probably am mad actually. There's a strong possibility that I'm not all here, and as long as I can function, I guess that's all that really matters. Other people to follow. Ben Shapiro, he's a fun one to follow. He tweets a lot as well. He might be more of an addict than Donald Trump sometimes. You should really listen to what you said. Those two things are 100% mutually exclusive. I'm not sure that that's true. No, I don't think that the word trigger should be embraced in the sense that it is overused for being bothered, right? Because that lends credence to the idea that some things are actually really, really sensitive subjects, and you shouldn't approach. So yeah, shouldn't use trigger like that because it basically conditions us to behave around everyone with kid gloves, right? I don't think that's right. I think that it's okay to be a little bit rougher with each other. Try to be respectful, but you shouldn't sugarcoat everything, right? And I'm mixing metaphors, but there are legitimate triggers. There are legitimate fears. Most of them are common fears. And what we see when it comes to people talking about being triggered, especially on college campuses, are things that are entirely new. We're talking about people that are supposedly triggered just by subjects without even looking at something. It's they're cop outs. They're cops out, I believe. Embracing the word triggered does not mean you get triggered constantly about irrational things. What the fuck are you talking about? Embrace, Embracing the word trigger doesn't mean embrace the slur. Maybe I misunderstand what you're saying then. Okay? I probably misunderstand what you're saying. Um, but I think using the word triggered outside of a psychological conversation, you know, if we're not talking about someone's psychology, like psychological triggers, which I don't think most people actually have, or if they do, it's not to the degree that we seem to see it in society. Um, I think that for the most part, unless maybe our society is really that sick, maybe we are all debilitated. Maybe we have such a real crisis in our hands because a great portion of us were never properly raised, never saw healthy relationships between our parents. Certainly, the divorce rate isn't so well. Infidelity hasn't been very good. We haven't seen parents staying true to each other. We haven't seen them treat each other well. And so these examples can harm us in our psychosexual development, right? Certainly, there may be some basis for that, but I don't think things are really that bad. And certainly when it comes to talking about being triggered about subjects, just something that is, we're not even talking about looking at an image or hearing a sound. We're not talking about something that's basically the senses. We're talking about something that's abstract, very abstract. And people use this word, they overuse it, right? Um, this is a real problem. And I have seen that. I have been around universities where people talk about this shit all the time. And it's ludicrous. I don't think people really do get triggered like that. All the statistics that you're throwing out there have nothing to do with what you're saying. You're only attributing to what you're saying. You need to have a causal link. Probably true. My brain's all over the place, so you're probably right. I might as well be drunk rambling. I have not had a sip of alcohol. I don't think straight, so probably true. But I do believe that the word triggered is overused. I think that's a valid argument or a valid claim. It is overused. In most cases, I don't think that people are actually having psychological triggers, so it's not worth bringing up. Am I wrong? Someone else tell me if I'm wrong and why I'm wrong about that in less than 16 minutes, because I've kept the stream longer than I actually hoped to keep it, so at least we're having a conversation now instead of just wasting everybody's time. So, yeah, Crackhouse librarian, thank you for the conversation. It's overused to shut down conversation, so if you embrace that we're triggered and get the other person to find it, it will make them look like a fool. Oh, I see where you're going with that. So, I mean, yeah, that could work. But other than that, is there any other utility to using that word? Yeah, I don't like where society is going though. I think that Jonathan Haidt and Greg Lukianoff are right that we are conditioning our society not to handle stressors, not to handle sensitive topics, because it's something that's they're not yet comfortable with. It's the same reason I'm not afraid to call myself an SJW. After you get someone to define it, it's hard for them to also not be an SJW about a personal issue. Well, you know what? You're the second person I've encountered that has made that kind of an argument as well. I suppose, but then again, that in other ways, from a tribalist perspective, you're only showing solidarity, even whether you know it or not, it shows some kind of solidarity saying, yay, there are more numbers for that side, more supporters of social justice, when you're just changing the definition of a social justice warrior. Because what social justice warrior means to most people is someone who's obnoxious and spouts talking points from the far left. And I was born a white dude, so I feel like I'm obligated to care more than the people who couldn't be outspoken in the past. Oh, that definitely sounds like an SJW. It almost sounds like, I need to make reparations for being whites, the white guilt concept, right? Certainly we see that kind of a parody from the right. I don't care. I wouldn't even make that argument. I would say I would speak out for everybody. Let's take the classist position, right? Instead of taking a stance that basically says, I'm going to be your white savior, or someone that's going to do right by the people of color. You could say, I'm going to do right for my class. Nobody's saying that white people need to have guilt. Well, that's not true. You can't say that nobody's saying that white people need to have guilt. Because the fact is, we absolutely see this and hear this from the SJW activists and authors and media. I'm not a transgender human. Okay, Dalen. Semi-random. Is there something you want to talk about? Did someone accuse you of being a transgender human? We have 12 minutes to talk about it. Less than 12 minutes. Yeah, okay. She's just like, let me think. Alright, yeah, I've been accused of that, very much so. Oh, well. Tranny Reptile. Will the Great North Korean Raccoon? Yes, you can call me Tranny Reptile. That's fine. I'm okay with that. I'll own it. Reptile, birds, dinosaur, I'll own that. Think of me as a reptoid, right? I'm living in a human skin. So this isn't really my skin, right? This is, you can see, it actually comes off. Hold on. Yeah. Hold on. I can just peel it. I'm just kidding. No, it doesn't come off. So, sure, someone might accuse you of being, a transgender human. That's fine. If you don't identify as a transgender human, that's fine. You don't have to identify as anything. I've mentioned before that I think it's kind of absurd that we do identify ourselves. Tranny equals derogatory. Well, okay, sure, tranny is derogatory. Sorry, in my head I translated it to the derogatory because I thought, anyway, I'm not going to focus too much on that. Sure, tranny is derogatory. Now, I mentioned before about self-identifying, right? It's a very odd concept that we self-identify. Because who are we to identify ourselves? Really? Like, we're subjective. How can we identify ourselves? We don't even know what we are. Tranny is not derogatory, it's a pejorative. That's fair. Actually, you know what? This reminds me, I haven't actually looked up the word derogatory before. It's a word I've used. It's not a word I've actually understood the etymology. So now I'm going to look up the etymology of derogatory. So thank you for that. Okay, the etymology of derogatory is circa 1500s, detracting or tending to lessen authority, rights, or standing by taking something away from. It is late Latin derogatorius, from Latin derogatus, past participle of derogare, to take away, detract from, diminish, Also, repeal, partly restrict, modify. So, in some sense, yes, it could be derogatory because it takes away some of the status. There's a stigma attached to tranny because if you're a tranny, you're probably a prostitute. Identity is about sovereignty. You can say that. I don't know if that's true. I'm one of those people that likes to say that actions speak louder than words, right? So you can identify yourself as something. You can brand yourself as something. But the thing is, while you might brand yourself as something, that doesn't mean that that's what your product is, right? So we might say, yes, this is what I am. Well, prove it, right? So I know it's going to sound strange and potentially transphobic, but that's not what I'm trying to do. Um, my point is to say that not everybody that says they're something is what they are. Great example. People who say they're Christian, right? A true Christian is not going to behave in in ways that are blatantly contrary to what they say they believe, right? So you should be very charitable. God should be a huge part of your life, like the most important thing, because your afterlife, your spirits, is like number one priority, right? Even your family comes second to God, according to the Bible, right? And so if you're living a life of luxury and you're drinking all the time and you're snorting coke and you're having all these fun parties and you're screwing over your competitors because you're a big businessman and you're like maybe you're Jeff Bezos, right? But you still call yourself a Christian. No, not buying it, right? Whatever you're selling, I'm not buying it. Who are you to define what a Christian is? Not even a Christian, not even the Christians have been able to do that. Fair enough, but my point being that you can't call yourself something and then say, yes, I'm a Christian. Well, what does it mean to be Christian? Well, if you look at what the teachings say, it's not what a lot of people are. Most Christians are not Christians. That's my point. Kind of like, surely you're familiar with rhinos, right? Republicans in name only, or other inos, right? Dinos, whatever. People that say they're one thing, but they're either hypocrites or they're just blatant liars. They're trying to manipulate people to support them when they really have very different endeavors from what they say they are, right? So you can identify yourself as something, but it's wrong. It's misleading, right? And so I'm one of those people that doesn't think that maybe we should necessarily be self-identifying, or it can certainly have its problems in name only. And then you also have crinos, which are Christians in name only. Surely you've seen all these acronyms, right? Um, they're just a bunch of. I know it's just a suffix for in name only, right? So my point being that we really aren't qualified, or we shouldn't be qualified, or we shouldn't be necessarily permitted to self-identify, right? Or even if we do, that should only be taken with a grain of salt, and everybody should do so, because the fact is, we're not always going to be what we say we are, right? You can have a great example is the meme about the typical male feminists, right? They call themselves feminists. They're very supportive of women, but the reality is that, according to the meme, they're basically just trying to get in bed with these women. They're basically predators, right? So are they really feminists? No, not according to the meme. So yeah, just take it with a grain of salt, and don't focus so much yourself on labeling yourself or what others label you. Just do you, and let that speak for who and what you are. Who are you thinking we should give the authority to? Or in which way should there be authority over you defining yourself? What's so important about defining anything though? I think there's not as much utility if we try to move away from a tribalist society, because the whole point of labeling something is to um, distinguish it from something, usually for the utility of either supporting or opposing something in group out group. What is the cross between an elephant and a rhinoceros elephino? Okay, oh, I get it. That's a bad joke. Um, yeah, I don't think it's very important to focus so much on labels. I know it's cliche. I really, it is very, very much cliche, but we really shouldn't focus on labels and the superficial either. What is cross? Oh, hold on, 1 second. What's the point in defining anything right after you recognize that tranny is pejorative and to lessen someone by a label? So I'm one of those people also that will say that um, words lose meaning if you don't give them meaning, right? Or if you ignore a meaning. I really can't get over how you're constantly contradicting yourself. I don't see it as contradicting. So I recognize something, but it doesn't mean that I abide by it. Does that make sense? Just because I recognize something to be generally taken to be true, it doesn't mean that I'm going to agree to it or play by those rules. Tranny is a pejorative, sure, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we should stop using the word tranny. It just means that we need to stop giving that word the power of being a stigma, right? Because that's what it is. Tranny is a stigma. It's associated with prostitution. It detracts from transgender people because people assume that they're not just ordinary women or trying to live ordinary lives, but that they are in fact in some ways predators, but otherwise deviants in the, generally connected with the sex industry. She's a paradox wrapped up in a singularity. Probably true. Probably true. And I have about a minute before I cut this stream. It's a long stream. I'm wasting people's. Anyone that rewatches this stream is going to be like, Jadis, you fucking bitch, you owe me. And you know what? That's probably true, but I'm never going to pay. Maybe I'll pay with watching someone else's stream. She's more like a singularity wrapped in platitudes. Probably true. I'm pretending that I know better. I'm not pretending that I'm just sharing my shitty opinions, right? I can do that. I'm free to do that. And if you don't like it, that's fine. I'm not telling you to be here. I'm not telling you that I'm right and you're wrong. I'm saying this is how I see it. That's okay. I can be wrong. I'm free to be wrong. You're free to be right and you're free to be wrong as well. I love this country for that reason. And I'm also scared that we're going to lose. Well, I'm quite certain that we are losing this country and that freedom is very soon going to recede. It certainly seems like that's already happening anyway. About 30 seconds. Well, I'm just going to use this time to say good night. It's been fun. I apologize for the contradictions. Sorry, but also not sorry. I don't really care. As long as I can function, I guess that's all that really matters, right? I'm a functioning, insane person. And I'll see y'all later. Oh, what does not forcing me to be here have to do with anything? What's the point of saying anything? I don't know, of even saying that, but I don't know, but you have a good night, okay? I'll see y'all later, maybe. Bye.